Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our weekly local internet marketing industry update. Now, next week, Local Marketing Source's member faculty call is going to be February 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And the LMS membership provides access to the LMS portal that's got over hundreds of different training videos for small businesses and local internet marketing agencies, including management documents and working documents, workbook, transcripts, student interviews, hot seats. It gives access to the private Facebook group as well, and live questions. This week we're going to be covering a survey that's out there. Over half the small businesses that were surveyed, they never do this one thing, and this is an absolute critical thing for search marketing. It's amazing. We're going to talk a little bit about the authorship and publisher attribute markups in HTML that have been put out by Google and the relevancy on Google for those. 3 quick and easy tips to be able to get your website that a lot of you, almost all of you, are going to be missing one of these 3 tips to be able to implement on your website. Get it done immediately, and I'll cover those. And then finally, Eric Schmidt, yap, he's got a big mouth. He's divulged some very critical information about ranking on Google and likelihood, some of the future of ranking on Google, and we're going to talk about that. Now, for tips this week, our local business tip. Last week I talked about Google Plus Local and the implications of Vine. That was a Twitter solution. This week, the true cost of remaining anonymous is what? Irrelevance. What does that mean? Why is that an extremely important statement? Well, the local internet marketing tip this week that we're going to talk about is citation acquisition and management systems and strategies in a local internet marketing agency. Well, you know, some of the challenges that you face when managing all these different citations, especially as a project manager. And this is coming from, well, this is what's going on inside the LMS member Facebook group today in the last couple of days. Scott Meadows, as an LMS student, was asking about citations and management of citations. And he's tried the Odesk solution. Not very good control on quality and poor results there. He's tried the BrightLocal approach. Accurate, but expensive. And so other LMS students have jumped in and talked about and shared some of their solutions that you'll want to check out in that Facebook group, like what Nick has said. Thanks, Nick, for sharing what you've done, and especially the tool that you shared in there. I haven't seen that tool yet. And then that's great. Or other ways, just to use Google to find certain apps and, you know, your $7 listing. So I appreciate all the feedback in there. You guys want to make sure you get into that group and check out what they're saying. But having said that, let's get into our weekly local business tip. Now for tips this week, for a small business internet marketing tip, well, last week we talked about Google Plus. And local and the possibilities and the implications of this new Twitter tool called Vine. But this week, we're going to talk about the true cost of remaining anonymous on the internet. And the true cost ultimately comes down to irrelevance. The local internet marketing tip that we're going to cover, last week we talked about education for claiming a profile, and this week we've got some discussion in the LMS forum, or sorry, the Facebook group, that's talking about citations, and so I'm going to be covering just different aspects of citation management and what a typical project manager. I spent some time speaking with my project manager and what he deals with on a day-to-day and month-by-month of managing citations. Now, you may want to go and check out the LMS member Facebook group. It's a private group for LMS members, and we're talking about the tips this week because of some of the discussions that are going on in there. Scott Meadows talks a lot about excuse me, grab some coffee. Talks a lot about citations and managing citations and building citations, and there's some good feedback in there. Nick's got some really good content about some tools, different citation finders and whatnot, so you should definitely get in there and take a look at what the LMS members are talking about. Now, to talk a little bit about this week's local business tip before we get into the weekly update. The true cost of remaining anonymous is irrelevance. It's almost a word-for-word quote from Mr. Eric Schmidt. He is the former CEO of Google. He's now some other top officer with another title doing some of the same stuff at Google. Well, what does that mean? You're anonymous on the internet, you're not going to be found. You don't have any relevance. Well, this really makes me think a lot about when I introduced the idea of, and as a matter of fact, I got a really cool write-up. God, I'd have to find it on this piece, this idea of this, and this is confirmation for it. I found it about 6 months ago. But when I talked about profile authorities and different profiles that are out there and linking your testimonials to a particular real profile and how to establish profile authority. Well, the fact of the matter is if you're going to leave in reviews, we've noticed the trend that these reviews no longer show up. They've talked about authorships and publisherships, utilizing HTML markups in websites to identify who particular people are and tie those to social accounts. Well, these social accounts then can build a particular authority around them. And so my Google Plus account may have more authority than, say, your Google Plus account. If I go and post something and link to it, that's going to give greater exposure and authority to that link than, say, you with less of an authoritative profile. Or I can go and create a profile right now and go and leave one review to it, and ultimately at the end of the day it's not going to have any particular authority associated to that. So that's really, in my opinion, what Eric Schmidt says when he says the true cost of remaining anonymous is irrelevance. He says, within search results, information tied to verified online profiles will be ranked higher than content without such verification, which will result in most users naturally clicking on the top verified results. The true cost of remaining anonymous then might be irrelevance. Well, I mean, this is just obvious. This is just plain old marketing. You know, it's like when we take a review or a testimonial and we just take the text that's attached to it, or we add somebody's name to it. That name could have a picture associated to it. We could turn that picture and that name and turn it into a video of one sort. In any event, as you start to add more credibility to it, the authority of that becomes increased. So, what do we got going on here? All right, there we go again. So now, that was a pretty good overview of profile authority, and I'm really glad to see Google talking about that type of stuff out there. However, now getting into the weekly update, we've got some interesting information about a survey. Over half the small businesses surveyed, and this is a survey that comes from Constant Contact, over half the businesses surveyed never update their listings. Do it once, boom, it's done. Well, we know that fresh content is really important in SEO. We know that businesses change. We know that businesses rethink themselves. They say businesses have got to rethink themselves every 3 to 5 years. What if they don't? These are all aspects that are important. 50% of small and medium businesses not updated their information, have inaccurate information. 70% of small and medium businesses say they don't have the time to manage all the listings on their sites that their consumers use. Well, that's understandable. That's why firms like ours and One Marketing exist. That's what we do for clients. And only 23%, less than a quarter of small businesses have an idea of how these listings drive traffic to their business. Well, this is something that I've been arguing for quite some time, is the education of local business owners and the challenge that faces local business owners. The messaging that's out there is bizarre. It's difficult. I mean, we're talking about an industry that's unregulated. We're talking about trying to sell services to small businesses that can't give any guarantees. We're talking about something that is new and very scary for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners out there. We're talking about something that takes time and something that they can't touch. We're talking about an industry that's got a lot of corruption in it, can I say black hat, and manipulation in it. We're talking something that has very little to very extensive education. We're talking opinions. It's a messed up, difficult, challenging industry to be in, especially when you're trying to sell these services to small businesses. Of course they're confused. They don't understand. I mean, what is search engine optimization? We're starting to see, I saw a Dilbert's comic strip this morning. I posted on my Facebook. I mean, it's a pretty mainstream comic strip, and they're starting to make jokes at SEO, but the jokes are so old school that, hey, everything on the internet you can't believe because we can really manipulate the content. And well, that's true to a degree, but we really can't manipulate as much as you think we can. And the challenge that poses behind manipulation of content becomes very difficult. And when you start manipulating content and feeding lies, well, yeah, one hippie could say that that's bad karma, but at the end of the day, a business individual is going to say that, you're just not going to get ahead with lies. Maybe, a lot of people from the corporate world are going to disagree with my opinion about that aspect, and maybe those are the reasons why I'm not in the corporate world and I just do what I do. But I'm a firm believer that honesty at the end of the day is going to get you ahead. And that's what we do in marketing. We just deliver a true, honest message that's out there, have real happy customers. The way to give happy customers is to give a good product, good customer service, follow-up, engagement, all these things that really make businesses just good businesses. Now, within this information that's coming out here, with this study, and I told you that 70% don't have the time to do this, the fact of the matter is 85% of the businesses in the United States have a very high relevancy on search. Again, that's a statistic coming from Constant Contact. 85% have a high relevancy for search. And Google says that it is estimated, and Constant Contact is supporting this, that between 40 and 50% of mobile search has local commercial intent. 40 to 50% of local search. 50% of the searches. Google has said over 20% of searches on desktop have local commercial intent. That means these are searches, 1 in 5 searches on Google, somebody's ready to spend money with a local business. It's a big deal. Here's some more information. 84% of small and medium businesses say that they can, having a website is important. Well, duh, but only 25% have any mobile optimized content. Think about these numbers. 62% think it's important to see on mobile major apps. 62% of small business owners think that it's important to be found in an app on a smartphone. I'm a small business owner. I'm a part of that 38%. I don't think that all small businesses need to be found on some sort of app. Is there an opportunity? Well, yeah, but that's ludicrous. 85% of small business owners do believe that their business is going to be found on mobile devices. Then why does 70% don't have the time to do this? I don't get that. All right, moving on. Google Local, should you be using the publisher attribute or the authorship attribute when utilizing the HTML markup? Both is the answer. Publishers and authors are ultimately different. Think of a book. I mean, you can be both, but the fact of the matter is we're seeing results that are showing up. When you see a result and a little snippet underneath it and it's got the little picture of somebody, you know, here, maybe I can show you on my screen. You know, like, I know this 10 local SEO strategies. And you can see that listing right here for those that are watching the video. I just did a search on Google for the top 10 local SEO strategies. One of my posts come up on my blog, and you see my little picture. Well, we know that these listings are showing up more than others. Images are very important. You can see a squidoo aspect comes up by an authorship. And this is tied to your what? To your Google Places profile. Google Plus profile. Add authority. Learn how to add authority to your Google Plus profile. I promise you, this is going to pay off. So use both of those HTML markups. If you don't know what they are, go to Google, do a search for HTML markup, authorship markup, and you can get information on all of that. A couple of tips here. These are 3 quick and easy tips. This is something that I thought was very important coming from a search engine land, and so I thought I'd just quickly overview some of these. Again, because they're very important and all project managers should be focusing in on these tips for websites. But first off, 404 links, broken links, bad. It's like trying to sell a house that doesn't have a door on it or a window needs to be replaced, a brand new house, and can you think of the builder trying to sell that house and saying, well, you know, we got a few things broken here and whatnot, but you can move in and we'll take care of it at some time. Fix those 404 broken links and pages immediately. This is called 301 redirect. This is for www and non-www domain names. You can see in some websites it will say www.domainname.com and others just put domainname.com. Well, Google, the search engines, they've never really figured this out. They see that it's 2 different websites. So if in your Google Webmaster account you haven't forwarded one to the other, it's going to see different pieces of content that's out there and different types of links, and it just creates a mess. And so you want to create what's called a 301 redirect. You want to forward one to the other. It doesn't matter if you're truncating the www or not. Just make a choice. I always forward everything to the www version. So all our websites always say www.domainname.com. And one big mistake is not having appropriate links on your home page that link to your most important pages. Well, in the LMS forum, when we're talking about websites, there's a video that's in there that discusses that. And it discusses layers of tiers of pages. And your tier 1 pages should link to all your tier 2 pages. They don't have to link to tier 3, but identifying what a tier 2 is, and absolutely the navigation have that. All right, moving on. And I was talking about profiles and the relevancy of profiles and the relevancy of content. And when Eric Schmidt opened up his mouth and made that comment about irrelevancy and content, but the fact of the matter is you need your profiles to be verified and you want to increase authority. Well, one of the ways to increase authority is to engage with people on that social network that have profiles and have profiles that are active and provide unique content. So not just using Hootsuite and a bunch of posts that are out there to say, you know, like one of mine, I'm doing inspiration quotes. That's cheesy. but some people like to read them. That's not going to offer authority. But when you're going and you're posting a new picture, a new link that really is not in the social network of being shared too much, or you're sharing content, you're on there and you're spending minutes a day or even hours a day on a profile, that's going to build its authority within that particular network, primarily Google. Don't forget about Google Plus. You've got to utilize this network. Put into the network. We're not getting a lot back out right now, but eventually Google is continuing to push this and continuing to find ways to force us to use that social network. So use it. Whatever you do on Facebook, just go and do on Google Plus. That's simple. You may not have the audience, you may not have the engagement today, but I assure you it's going to build your profile authority. You're going to be one of the founding authorities in Google Plus, and ultimately your content that you get published is going to add greater authority. But be careful about what you publish. Publish content of relevancy. Don't publish garbage. Well, that comes to the conclusion of this week's update, and now I'm going to move into a local internet marketing agency tip.